Hey, so a slightly different video today. I'm in considerable pain. I was at a birthday party last night and I was one of the last to leave the venue in Angel, Islington. As I was walking around the venue trying to find my coat, the next thing I know, I got picked up from behind by a bouncer. Bouncer thought it was appropriate to basically drag me out of the venue. I wasn't behaving like a dick and the guy grabbed me from behind, literally bear hugged me. And now literally my ribs are in agony, like to the point where it's very difficult to breathe. I am going to go check it out in the local hospital. So curious to see how long this takes. I think it would just be a case of getting an x-ray. The reality is if it's broken ribs or just bruised ribs, there's not really much doctors can do. However, if they're broken, I'm obviously going to take more precautions than if they're just bruised. Hence, I would like to know this. So it's obviously, it's not a super emergency, but I will be curious to see how National Health Service deals with my problem on a Sunday evening. So the time is 5:33. I'm going to make my way to the hospital. It's about 1.5 miles away, and see how long it takes me to get there. I think I might walk, but to be honest, I'm not sure. If it starts to get too painful, I'll just get an Uber or something. Anyway, join me on this journey. So my closest hospital is Kensington and Chelsea. I'm heading there right now. I have to admit, it really hurts to walk. I probably should get an Uber, but to be honest, I want to sort of feel to see where the pain is, so I could be more specific on when hopefully I see a nurse or a doctor. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so a slight stubbornness. I haven't actually taken a taxi. I haven't taken a bus, mainly because the traffic's so bad. That is the current setup. I'll be honest, I'm in agony now. It's painful, so I'm just gonna put my head down. I should beat this traffic at least. So yeah, I'll see you. Next camera will be at the NE. Okay, so that took me a lot longer than I expected. Definitely know there's something wrong with me now. The pain on my left side is excruciating. I'm gonna go in. I probably won't film. I might be sitting down, but I'm not gonna film just to protect people's privacy. So it's 9:45. I've just got out of the hospital. It took me 3 hours and 5 minutes, 3 hours, 10 minutes to get seen by a doctor. When I finally did, the doctor was very nice. I've obviously been working very hard. It turns out I have potentially cracked ribs and bruising to my ribs. So thanks to the bouncer for that one. I will be making a complaint. It's a shame because the venue was a nice venue. It started very nice, but the bouncer ruined my night, and it's going to cause me pain for the next 2 weeks. The doctor said I will have pain for 2 weeks. I've got extremely strong painkillers. One's going to make me drowsy. Great. I can't do any heavy lifting for at least the next 2 weeks. So not ideal. Not ideal at all. But also it goes to show, you know, what happens. I appreciate it was a minor A&E thing. My arm wasn't falling off, my head wasn't falling off. So reality is it's not really that pressing to see me. But after 3 hours and 15 minutes, I was eventually seen by a doctor, and I was out of the hospital just a few minutes later with some drugs in my pockets, a long doctor's note, should I need one. And that's pretty much it. So that is the NHS right now. Right now it's been overloaded by mass immigration. Don't get me wrong, there's some amazing people working in the NHS that come from other countries. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with people that are coming into the country and paying their taxes. But the reality is, even in this wealthy area of Kensington and Chelsea, there are people abusing the NHS. There's 500,000 people coming into the country every single year. That's going to put a strain on services. That's going to put a strain on schools. That's going to put a strain on the NHS. That's going to put a strain on the roads. That's why there's more congestion. That's why we are literally one of the most crowded countries in the world. The British people are having to put up with this, so it's a shocking set of affairs. Anyway, appreciate you watching. I'm going to go home and rest now. So that was my NHS experience for the day. Nice way to spend a Sunday evening. So I released this video just as the coronavirus is literally about to hit the UK. I think there's just under a dozen cases now in the UK. And in my opinion, I think it's going to get very bad. It took me 3 hours, 15 minutes to see a doctor about cracked ribs. When accident emergencies are full of people coughing their guts out because they have the coronavirus, and the hospitals are being shut down, GP waiting rooms are being shut down due to isolation, I think London and the UK and the rest of the world are going to look just like Wuhan does right now. I really hope I'm wrong. Only time will tell. Hopefully someone watching this YouTube video in 2021 can leave a comment and say it didn't happen and we survived and we're all still here. However, I do think things are going to get very sketchy, and they're going to get sketchy very, very quickly. So if you are able to stay out of the way of the infected, you might be a writer who's able to stay at home and write books, I would advise you to do that. Now, it's plainly obvious I'm no doctor, and I know most doctors will disagree with me, but I think the UK, and I think the West, and I think pretty much every country on this planet, bar the odd very rich exception, is going to struggle to cope with this pandemic that's about to hit this beautiful planet of ours. I hope I'm wrong. I'm certainly not wrong when I state the reason the NHS is struggling is overpopulation. Even The Guardian admits that in a article from November 2019, where it stressed A&E waiting times are at their worst on record as the NHS comes under intense pressure before what doctors and hospital bosses fear will be a very tough winter for the service. But basically quoting, funding for the NHS has failed to keep pace with the rising need for healthcare. The NHS does not have enough staff or enough equipment to meet the needs of the population it serves. Now, this is despite the NHS having increased spending year after year after year. So please don't give this left politics, right politics, and suggest that it's being underfunded due to cuts. The NHS spending has gone up year after year after year after year. It simply can't keep pace with the expanding population. However, let's see how this plays out. I'm hoping this doesn't impact us and we can go back to our lives and we can start traveling to the exotic locations again. But right now, I think tough times ahead. Anyway, sorry for the rant. I just hope that everyone stays healthy. Thanks very much.
We dare not refuse this burden. I'm confident that each of you will do his duty. God forgive us.
There will be panic the likes of which we have never seen.
Attention, Portland residents, citizens of San Diego, residents of Atlanta, Denver residents of Detroit, attention, Dallas residents.